So as you may have seen, we recently had the developer live stream fully reviewing the Spiritborn class for Diablo 4, but then at the end of that live stream, a bunch of Diablo 4 content creators got to stream or show a bunch of footage of them playing the Spiritborn on an early build of the Vessel of Hatred. And while this was an early build for the expansion, there was still some very interesting information in it. This information basically amounting to some pretty big leaks pertaining to the raid system coming with this expansion. So in this video, we're going to go over these leaks, and I want to go over some of the information that ties into this from the leaks that we got like 10 months ago. This information also seems to be from Rob's stream, but I'll have the Wowhead article linked in the description that has all of that information as well. Now, the reason these leaks are so interesting is because we still have almost no information on the raids coming with the Vessel of Hatred. In fact, when this system was officially revealed, it wasn't even called a raid, and we got basically no specific information with it. And the system we're going to be talking about in this video that seems to be raids, that was described as raids from previous leaks, is described like this from the only information we have on it. And this is labeled as a co-op endgame activity. Party up to take on a new multifaceted dungeon with powerful challenges and promising rewards. First of its kind to Diablo, this dungeon will require eager warriors to team up and take down the challenge together. So there's basically zero specific information on that. They didn't give the system a name, they didn't give the actual dungeon a name, and they didn't have any further information on how this is actually going to work. Now, the leaks that pertain to the system are actually located in the Materials tab. The first one being Kasra horns that is labeled as a currency, and these are earned from the Dark Citadel used to transmute high-level boss materials. And the flavor text is a fractured piece of a Kasra horn. Some lingering magic still remains. So this seems to be a currency or a material you're going to be obtaining from this new endgame system that you use to transmute high-level boss materials. Now, we're not sure at all what a high-level boss material is going to be. The only thing I think this could connect to the current content we have in Diablo 4 is maybe this is a currency added into this endgame system that will allow you to turn it into any of the boss materials you need to summon any of the bosses on the boss ladder, which would be a good way to just add additional rewards to this piece of content, just allowing you to go fight these bosses in this new endgame system that's probably going to be a raid, but also allow you to just get these materials to then connect to the endgame boss ladder. Now, you probably noticed that this has a name of where you're going to get this, and that's the Dark Citadel. And if you watch some of my previous videos going over the raid leaks for the expansion, this wouldn't be surprising to you because there are a bunch of files in these leaks that call the raid Citadel. Now, it's always labeled just as Citadel, but it shares a lot of files, naming, boss mechanics, and other pieces of information that are directly tied to other files that call it a raid. And this is also what I theorized this first iteration of this system would actually be, because even going back to the picture they use when officially reviewing this, it looks like something you would think of if someone told you its name was gonna be the Citadel. And it seems like the official name of this is going to be Dark Citadel. And the second of these two leaked resources is called a Citadel coin. It too is labeled as a currency, and this is earned from the Dark Citadel as well and used to purchase items from the Citadel vendor. And its flavor text is a highly guarded currency hoarded by the inhabitants of the Dark Citadel. Now, what's really interesting with that flavor text is it doesn't mention it being held by like lieutenants or bosses or the strongest creatures of the Dark Citadel. It just says it's hoarded by the inhabitants. And I think this makes it a pretty good chance that these Citadel coins are going to be obtainable from defeating anything within the Dark Citadel raid. Because going back to some of the other leaks I've gone over in previous videos, you can actually see some information in those files that kind of mention different events within the system. It almost sounded like there would be different events or trash packs in between boss fights, which would make a lot of sense if they're making a raid, and it would also also make even more sense is if they were taking inspiration from World of Warcraft, which if they're going to take any inspiration from any other raid system from other games, it would most likely be from WoW that's made on the same campus they make Diablo, where they would also have the ability to go talk to developers that work on WoW. And the use for these Citadel coins being used to purchase items from the Citadel vendor is also going to tie pretty heavily into some of those leaks we've gone over previously, because some of this information mentions something like a raid crafter, specifically labeled as raid crafter consumables, which could potentially point to these Citadel coins being used to make some consumables specific to the raid. But I don't think these coins would only be used for consumables. I just think this probably points to consumables being one of the things that are able to be purchased from this currency. Because after looking at the flavor text of these coins, I do think it's a pretty good possibility that these coins can be obtained from defeating any enemies within the raid, which would also be very good to tie back into a vendor, allowing you to buy gear from the raid if they have raid specific gear, or maybe just being used as another gambling currency. I would also be very surprised if there wasn't like cosmetics tied to the raid that maybe you could buy with this currency, which I think could also bring this coin into the realm of a bad luck protection. Like, let's say the Dark Citadel ends up having a bunch of pieces of gear that you can only get at the Dark Citadel, or a bunch of cosmetics or other items that are unique to this content. So instead of just being able to get those unique items from, say, defeating bosses, you would also be building up this currency that could allow you to buy those items if you're getting super lucky and not getting them. And since we're playing an ARPG here, they would also still probably be random rolled, so there would still be some amount of gambling with this coin. So there is a lot of possibilities with these currencies, and I do think they're probably going to play into the different tiers of this raid, because we also went over some files where this raid is detailed to have a bunch of different difficulties. In fact, in these files, it's also detailed that there would be tier 0 up to tier 5 for this raid, and most likely if you're doing a higher tier of difficulty of the raid, you would probably be getting more of these currencies, which could potentially be pretty crazy for the Kasra horns, because those are transmuted into high level boss materials. And if we're going off the possibility that you're transmuting this currency into boss summoning materials to go kill the boss ladder bosses, then potentially high level raid clears could be very good for going and farming all of the boss ladder bosses, which are still probably going to be the best way to get the uber unique items. And if we're going off of that line of thinking, I think it's actually a higher chance that the raid is going to have its own unique items, or at least not be used for target farming the uniques you would be target farming from the boss ladder. Because if that's the case, you would be going to the raid to farm the specific items that come from the raid. You would then be getting these Kasra horns while doing it, where then you could go craft whatever boss summoning materials you want, which will then take you into the boss summoning ladder to farm for the unique items you're looking for. I think that could actually be a pretty good content cycle. And this does make me more excited for this system, because even if these currencies are super simple in what you use them for, this still means that this new system, these raids, are going to be tied into other systems in the game. Whether that be making boss summoning materials to go kill bosses on the boss ladder, or using these Citadel coins to maybe gamble for random gear, all of this just points to this raid being more connected to other pieces of the game and just being a bit more complex and interesting of a piece of content. Because if they had a bunch of different currencies that tie into other systems, that tie into other ways of getting rewards, that potentially tie into the system having its own unique gear, all of that just makes a system more interesting. But that's pretty much all I want to go over, so thanks for watching.